The time value of money, presented by WallStreetSurvivor.com. The time value of money is a basic concept in finance that shows that a single dollar is worth more in the future than in the present. Here's Natalie. Natalie has a beautiful singing voice, enters a vocal competition, and wins. As a prize, she's awarded $1 million. She can choose to receive a single lump sum check for $1 million or $1,025,000 in a year from now. Natalie isn't sure what to do. That extra $25,000 sounds nice, but is it too nice? Natalie is a vocalist, not a businesswoman, so she asks her friend Linda for advice. Linda is not easily tricked, and is quick to tell her that it all comes down to interest. Suppose Natalie could put that $1 million in the bank and earn 5% per year in interest. At the end of the year, her winnings will grow from $1 million to $1,050,000. By taking the money today, rather than in 1 year, Natalie will make an extra $25,000. Not too shabby. The key to the time value of money is to remember that over time, your money makes money. How much it makes depends on the interest rate or return you can expect to receive. This is also known as the discount rate. The decision to take the money today or in the future depends entirely on the discount rate, the percent you think your money will grow. For example,
Okay, so that's probably good enough for what we're going to get to today. So you should have in front of you a case study that's been printed out, and I'm going to start by going over the first part of the case study. So as you can see here, you have an example scenario where Bo and Dorothy each have $1,000 a month that they can put toward a mortgage for a home and investing. So between the two, they have to decide how much they're going to put toward a home and how much they're going to put toward investing. Now, this is probably a little bit easier to do on a handout than it is in the real world, because in the real world, people are going to want nicer and nicer homes, and that eats up more and more money that can be invested. But putting that aside and some people's ability to delay gratification, we're going to see mathematically which is a better decision. So Bo decided that he was going to have a 30-year mortgage, and he borrowed $100,000, and that would cost him $536.82 a month for the mortgage for 30 years. That will end up costing him an overall interest just over $93,000. Whereas Dorothy decides to take out a 15-year loan at 5%. Her monthly payment is going to be higher, just over $790, and she'll only lose just over $42,000 in interest over 15 years. Now we're going to assume Bo takes the difference between 536.82 and $1,000 and invests it in the market. It earns a market average of 8%. So his portfolio will be over $680,000 after 30 years by just investing that amount of money. There's no employer match in this scenario. So if you subtract his contributions, he has a gain of $513,000 plus dollars, just over $500,000. Whereas Dorothy can only invest $209 a month for 15 years, and then after that she can invest $1,000 a month for 15 more years. So Dorothy will end up having a portfolio value of 585,000 minus her contributions, which makes it a gain of 367,000. So as you can see, Dorothy earns significantly less than the market. Now, what about if we were to calculate the amount of money lost in interest? As you can see, Bo lost 93,000. Dorothy lost 42,000. So when you factor in investment gains and loan interest loss, Bo is still far ahead of Dorothy. Far ahead of Dorothy. Why? Because when the interest rate for a loan is less than the market average in the stock market, it makes sense to invest as much as you can in the stock market and even make the loan longer and pay more in interest over time, because it comes down to the math. If I can earn 8%, and pay 5% on a loan, that's better than it would be if I were to put less in the market that would earn 8%. Now, let's say, for example, it wasn't that simple. Let's say that the interest rate on the loans was 10,000 or was 10%. Sorry, 10% APR. Now, with a 10% APR, your rate of interest is greater than the average market, the average rate of return in the market. So when you look at this, same kind of scenario, and you can look at this in detail later on when I'm done talking here. But in this circumstance here, Shelby decides that she's going to have a mortgage for 30 years, paying a 10% APR, where Brian's going to have it for 20 years. Brian obviously is going to pay his loan off 10 years faster, and he's going to invest that extra amount each month for the 10 years that follow. Because the interest rate is so much higher, it was actually better for Brian to do what he did, to have a shorter mortgage and than it was for Shelby to have a longer mortgage. So they did the same thing. Shelby had a longer mortgage. She invested the difference between $1,000 and then the monthly payment. In this example, it was $877.57 for 30 years, where Brian paid $965 a month for 20 years and then invested the difference. Then after those 20 years were up, for 10 years, he invested $1,000 a month. Well, Brian ended up better off because the interest rate is so high on the mortgage. So this is important to see, because when you're making a decision someday, whether it's a student loan or a mortgage, when the APR is really low, you should dump as much as you can in the markets. But if you have a really high interest rate, you should pay that off as fast as you can. So the last thing that I want to prompt you into discussing is what happens if there's a match. Now, since I'm not there, I'm going to give you a second to think that through, and then I'm going to tell you what you should consider. Well, if there's a match, you're gaining 100% for every dollar that you invest, assuming it's a dollar for dollar match. So the APR would have to be over 100% for it to make sense to not invest in a 401k. So you want to always take advantage of your 401k match, unless, of course, you have payday loans, which nobody in this class will. So after you contribute enough to take full advantage of the employer's match, that's when you start deciding what to do with the excess. And I will leave it to you to discuss the remainder of the assignment. So as you can see here, I want you to partner up and discuss what to do, to discuss how high interest rate loans impact the scenario. How does an anticipated rate of return factor into the decision? And then most importantly, tackle this case study of Nate and Scott, where it is a scenario that you will likely face when you graduate from college. I used in the scenario the current Perkins loan interest rate at 5%, and I used the current average for private loans at 12%. I used what would be some pretty reasonable numbers for emergency savings and some current bills and an average car loan payment. And then you need to look at these two scenarios and decide who's in a better situation, what should each of them do, so on and so forth. When you're done with the assignment, turn it into the substitute teacher and check your budget challenge. Thanks so much.